You're tuned in to Inside Lowell. Inside Lowell podcast brought to you in part by Washington Savings Bank, serving the greater Lowell community for over 130 years. Make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. Unicare, offering a variety of plans for people insured under the GIC. At Unicare, your health is their top priority. Reverie 73, Lowell's #1 cannabis shop. Elevate your cannabis experience at Reverie 73. Hafner's, heating and cooling homes and businesses for nearly a century. Become a part of the Hafner's family. It kicks. Boston North Company, offering a wide variety of business solutions to help restaurant and retail clients save money. Boston North. And by Mahoney Oil Company, providing warmth and protection to families in Greater Lowell and Southern New Hampshire since 1925. That's Mahoney Oil. And now, time for another Inside Lowell podcast. Inside Lowell. If Lowell is your home, this is your place.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another Inside Lowell podcast. I am your host, Teddy Panos, coming to you from the beautiful Inside Lowell studios here in historic downtown Lowell. Very excited this morning because we're welcoming in a very special guest who's come a long way to visit our fair city, along with, in all 50 American cities. We're going to bring him in a quick second. Just want to thank all of you for joining us here as well. We are recording this on Friday the 13th. Hope none of you are superstitious, but wherever you are, whenever you're watching this, hope you're having a great day out there. And thank you for joining us here at Inside Lowell, as we like to say, Inside Lowell. If Lowell is your home, this is your place. And with that, let me bring in my special guest. He knows a thing or two about Lowell, though you come from halfway across the country in, is it Indiana or Illinois?
I was born in Indiana, and I live in Peoria, Illinois right now.
Peoria, a town called Peoria, right? Or
a town called Peoria.
He is Matt George, described as executive leadership business coach, television host, and Amazon best-selling author, #1 on the Amazon list. As a matter of fact, welcome, Matt.
I appreciate you having me.
Great to have you here. You've come a long way in your RV.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
We hit the road. We have an RV. We're traveling across the country to 52 cities in 70 days.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're excited.
And you started your tour in Boston. You're actually launching your 2 books that you're launching today in just a couple of hours after we record this podcast, right?
Right. And I wanted to do it in Lowell because I have great family ties here. I grew up going on vacation here. I have a lot of cousins here. And so I called them and called Julie and Donna, my cousins, and I said, hey, can you help me out? And they said, this is going to be really fun.
Yeah, for those who don't know, if you didn't read our Inside Lowell article that we posted when you announced your book tour, your Julie and Donna that you speak of are Julie Grilakis, Donna Christopoulos, part of the family that owns a Spin City Laundromat and Lowell Central Electric and Design Lighting, and their sister, Linda Rizos, her husband's a dentist. Right. It's just such a well-known family in the area, and you really do. I mean, you know the area, you know the people of this area, so it's kind of very fitting that you kicked it off here.
Well, I love Lowell. I mean, what a great town, and when you come in here, it feels like home, and it just has a different feel. And so I've been in Boston the last couple of days, but today both books launch, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, and you're doing a stop at a couple of the more well-known nonprofits in the area. I believe the Megan House Foundation and Katie's Closet.
Yes.
Right? So we're going to talk about why those 2 stops on the agenda. There's also one more other famous relative you have, right, that people may know if they recognize the name George, and certainly I, as a football fan and fantasy football player, rooted on your cousin Jeff George, on many occasions.
Yeah, he's a fun cousin to have. We were roommates at Illinois, and
oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I ran his foundation for a while, and we did a lot of good things, and so still talk to him all the time.
So that could explain. You ran his foundation. I think I have the answer to my next question. How did you get your start in the nonprofit world?
Well, it's actually not from that. I was 16 years old, and I had a friend pass away from cancer, and it really stunned me at a young age, and I thought to myself, what can I do to actually raise money for his family? And they didn't even ask. I don't know why I initially thought that, but they were a good family, and I decided to raise did an event and raised $3,500, and that was really the start of when I handed that check over to the family. It felt like $1 million, and so that was what I didn't know at the time, is the beginning of being a fundraiser and being in the nonprofit world my whole life.
So I was going to ask, what did you do before you got into the nonprofit world? But it sounds like at 16 years old, it kind of chose you.
Right? You know what? Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. It did choose me, and all through college, I raised money for cancer foundations and for nurse scholarships and all these just different things. And I became known as the guy that can bring athletes together, and I leveraged some big names. One of my first fundraisers I ever did was with Walter Payton. He was my hero growing up, and we raised $150,000. I was just turning 20, and so we made a mark early, and we continued to do it. And that, I've always had a motto of change lives, save lives, and daily, and we've been doing it for a long time.
Interesting that change lives, save lives is the name of the tour that you're on. How did you kind of get to the point where you said you leveraged some connections that you had, but how did you kind of get to the point where you start hanging out with the guy from Shark Tank and New York Times best-selling authors, and then you kind of make the transition to author yourself?
Yeah, well, I saw my dad was speaking at an event in Las Vegas, and the keynote was Kevin Harrington, the original shark on Shark Tank, the founder of infomercials and As Seen on TV brand, and he gets done with his talk, and I kind of cornered him. He was trying to sneak out the back. I knew he had to get down from the third floor, obviously from at Mandalay Bay, and I said, Kevin, my name's Matt George. I'm a nonprofit CEO. I run a children's home in Peoria, Illinois. And he said, Matt, I'm busy right now. I have to catch my plane. I'll call you in 2 hours. And so I went back and I said to my dad, he isn't going to call me. 2 hours later, he calls me. He did a background check on me. He knew everything about me. And he said, come down to this address in Florida at this time on this date if you're serious. But he asked, what do you want from me? And I said, I need a mentor. And I flew down there and ended up being his house. I walked in. He said, I'd be happy to be your mentor. And he gets on the phone 5 minutes later, and he calls a lady, and it's a publisher in LA, and he says, that favor we owe each other. His name's Matt George. 9 months later, I had a book.
That's a spectacular story.
Yeah.
And also, it kind of tells you a little bit about him, that he would care, make the connection, and then actually invite you into his home. Because people who run in the circles that Kevin Harrington don't put up fences around their homes to keep us out, right?
Yeah, you know what? I actually think it was the right place at the right time, actually, for both of us. I think he was looking at in his life of, now, hey, I'm in my 60s. I want to start giving back more. I want to start slowing down more. And we actually, I feel like we help each other.
Mm-hmm. You probably do. I think he takes great pride. He must take great pride in kind of watching where you are now. So what was the first book?
It was called Nonprofit Game Plan. And it's really what I wrote about was how important nonprofits and social service agencies are, and that they're actual businesses. So it's a blueprint for nonprofit success. It's a book that just talks about, I ran 500 employees, 1,700 kids a month flowed through my agency. I had 54 programs, annual budget of 35+ million. That's real business.
You seem to, you mentioned you ran a children's home.
Yeah.
And it seems like a lot of your work gravitates towards the youth.
Yes.
Does that go back to the story you told when you were 16 years old?
It goes back to that, but it was also cancer related. I've raised a lot of money for cancer over the years. That's another sweet spot of mine that I enjoy raising money for. We raise money for breast cancer, but the bottom line is, you hear all the time, children are our future, and it's kind of an overplayed expression, but it's actually very true, and it's our job to really do what we can to get these kids into the right frame of mind to be able to take the leadership roles that we're currently in now.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the two books that you're launching and an event that you have, but the city of Lowell is also appropriate for your stop, because I was part of a group that founded a nonprofit, the Megan House Foundation,
Yep.
which you're visiting.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember doing a little research on it back in 2014, 2015, and there were close to 200 nonprofits in Lowell. So there's a lot of people who are going to watch this and maybe, with great interest.
Yeah.
What's the number one lesson that you can impart on people who either are in kind of an established nonprofit or trying to grow one, or actually trying to found one? Is there a model that everybody needs to follow? Is there a thought that everybody kind of needs to keep in their business plan? Or does it all depend on what exactly you're trying to support out there?
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, it's mission. So what is the mission? Does it bring value to the community that you're in? I'll be honest with you, not all communities have great nonprofits. There's some nonprofits. Here's a stat that will blow you away. I think there's 17,800 pet nonprofits in the United States. Do we need that many nonprofits? And so the question, it goes to mission, number one. And then it goes to outcomes. Are you actually doing what you're saying you're doing? So if you're taking in money, whether it's state money or grant money or donations, whatever it may be, if you're taking in those dollars, you have a fiduciary responsibility to be able to put those to the program to make impact for the community, to actually show outcomes that make change.
How does it, because a lot of people will criticize some nonprofits out there. I've been known to do it on occasion here,
Yeah.
but you just kind of see these groups, they start off, they're well-intentioned. They're actually very successful at doing what they set out to do, but then it's almost like the bigger they get, the more bureaucracy is added, and they start to kind of fade away from that mission that you talked about. Would you say that's the most common mistake most nonprofits do, is they kind of lose the original mission?
It's one of them, and to me, that's lack of leadership. I mean, this goes to my point in my first book of, these are businesses, and they're not just programs. So you can't just sit here and say, my program's a great after-school program. It is an actual business that needs to have outcomes that are valuable to the community that you're in. And the other piece that's very important too is donor cultivation, the branding and marketing piece, and then boards. Boards are very important to the survival of nonprofits. And you have to have a good leader, a good director or CEO, to be able to know how to manage the boards, to be able to actually, if you are on my board, you not only become a mentor of mine, I'm actually going to give you assignments. And even though oddly I report to you and you're a volunteer, but that's how it usually is. But at the same time, I still have to guide you and give you things to do to help further the mission along, to be able to be a productive business.
You said something there. You said it's a business. And a lot of people are like, whoa, wait, this is a nonprofit. A business is supposed to make a profit, and that means you might have to cut some corners. What do you mean by you need to remember that your nonprofit is a business? Is it the way you run it, or is it simply you have to expect results and be results oriented?
Both. So first of all, I still had 500 employees. I have HR. I have all the functions of audits. I had all the functions that you can imagine that goes with running a business that has 500 employees. I have to deal with crisis on top of that. I'm not selling tennis shoes. So if I don't make my quota on selling an item, I can wake up the next day and sell the item. In our business, it's life or death. So we have that extra risk and that cloud kind of over us, knowing that we have to run this business efficiently in the right way. Then you have the take with the donors. If I'm raising $2, $3, $4 million a year, I can't just sit there and not do anything with it. I have to produce results and outcomes that actually change the community.
What's the secret to putting together a board that helps facilitate the work of the executive director and meets the mission? Because I think one of the problems here in Lowell is with so many nonprofits, everybody's kind of scrambling. You're reaching out to the same, few dozen, maybe 100 or 2 individuals to serve on the boards. And they only have so much bandwidth because they have lives, they have businesses themselves to run. What's the secret in putting together a board? The bigger, the better, the more compact, the better. What's kind of your philosophy?
To me, it's being able to brand and leverage the mission to be able to hook someone in to say, listen, I just don't need you to build your resume. I don't care who you are. I don't want to sit here and have somebody on the board that's just taking a seat. Well, I don't have time for it. I'm busy. And so what I like to do is I vet them just like I do employees. I'll sit here with my other board members and with our exec committee, and we'll sit there and we'll look and say, are you in? What do you know about us? Are you committed to the terms, which my terms were 3 years? Are you willing to be on this committee? What else are you willing to do? And you're interviewing them just like they're actually, it's a job. And then that's where the CEO or director usually drops the ball. They get the name or they get someone on the board, and then they don't like board meetings. It's just another thing, a monthly or bi-monthly or whatever it is. Oh my goodness, I have a board meeting. You should never think that way. You should actually be prepared and utilize the talent in the room. If I have 16 board members, why wouldn't I want 16 men and women that are CEOs or people of influence in your community to be able to help move my mission? Because as CEO, even though I didn't form typically my agency was 157 years old. So there was thousands and thousands of employees. I was just one of many. But at the same time, I had to look at it and take ownership of it and say, for this to move to the next step, I have to do this. And that's where you're running the business part comes into play.
You are tuned into Inside Lowell, a podcast featuring Matt George, executive leadership business coach, TV host, and #1 Amazon best-selling author. He is kicking off the launch of not one, but 2 books that we need to talk about. Talk about ambition. Most people have a hard time launching 1 book. He's launching 2 on the same day. Welcoming you back here, Matt. You strike me as a guy who's got a lot of confidence. You're sure of who you are and what you're doing. I mean, you have to be, right? You were working with Walter Payton as a kid, basically. You're reaching out to a guy like Kevin Harrington, the original Shark Tank guy. That said, were you surprised when your book became a #1 bestseller? Did that kind of catch you off guard? I mean, I would imagine you were just thinking you're writing like a help piece, right, or a guide, and then all of a sudden it catches fire.
You know what? I was hoping. I didn't know the process. I still don't fully know the process, other than it's driven by sales. But at the same time, I also had a shark. And so I had an idea on how to get creative. He filmed videos for me. He posted it on his links, and he had I had access to his network and still do. And so those things, I can't even tell you how valuable they are. It's just huge.
That shark is actually joining you on, I believe, is it Tampa or St. Pete on your stop?
Sarasota. He's going to be at a few. And
along with a gentleman by the name of Mark Victor Hansen, who is a New York Times best-selling author himself, right?
Well, he's sold over, now think of this number, 600 million books. He's the founder of Chicken Soup for the Soul. And so only second to the Bible. He's sold that many books in his lifetime. Wow. He's an author of 318 total books.
Right. That's spectacular. And these are the circles you're running with. Are they getting in the RV with you, or are they flying private?
They're not getting in the RV, but he did. Mark not only published my books, but he was very nice enough to put his words on the front of each cover, which is pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about the books, because you have a copy of each. They're literally going on the market today. Right? Amazon.com.
Yep.
Okay. So 2 of them, Starfish Among Us and the Nonprofit Prophet. Now, the Nonprofit Prophet is actually a name that Kevin Harrington gave you, right?
Yeah. So 3-4 years ago, he said, I need to come up with a name for you. He goes, give me 24 hours. And about 30 minutes later, he called me and he said, you're the Nonprofit Prophet. And I said, okay, talk me through this. And he said, I love the name. You're the Nonprofit Prophet. That's going to be your brand. So I was doing some stuff with him. I opened up for him on some speeches, and then, the book was doing well, and then COVID hit. And at the time, I just didn't want to take a step back and do this fully because I didn't know what COVID was at the time. I have a team of a lot of people, and a lot of kids and people in my community relied on me and my team. And so I said to my board, I'll stay on another few months, and it ended up being another 2.5 years.
So why 2 books? Most people will launch just one. I mean, the Harry Potter series went out for over many years with TVs and books and movies. So why 2 in one day?
Well, what happened was I was with Mark Victor Hansen in Scottsdale, where he lives, and we were talking, and he said, I actually know Kevin Harrington, and I think we need to publish a book. I love what you talk about. I love the idea of it. He said, Matt, you can make change. And so that started the Nonprofit Prophet. That was in November of 22. I get a call from him in February of 23, and he says, Matt, I'm sorry I'm calling so late. I had a dream. I have an idea for you. You're going to write another book. And I said, what? I go, I'm not even done writing this book. And he said, nope. He said, you're going to take those 25 lessons that you have for youth and young adults, and you're going to take those and we're going to weave them into a book. And so Starfish Among Us came from that. It's catered towards middle school and high school kids, but it's actually, I think it's a great book for parents too. And it's one of those things where when you read, I'm very proud of that book because it is, there's a lot of themes in it of things that I believe in.
What's the significance of the starfish? I get the Nonprofit Prophet, Prophet, but the starfish, what's the significance of that to what you do?
There's a story of that. There's a kid and he's walking on a beach, and there's thousands and thousands of starfish that wash up, and he starts picking them up and throwing them back into the ocean. And a guy comes over and he says, there's so many of them, you're really not making a difference here. And he said, I make a difference for that one. And so I related that story to, I never liked when someone said to me, if you could help just one kid. And my comeback to that was, I have 1,700 kids a month that flow through my agency. I'm helping 1,700. Mm-hmm. Those kids need someone like me to fight for them. So that's every day I'd wake up and I'd want to fight for those kids. So that's where that came from. And so it's really about just taking care of our youth and taking care of these kids that are stuck in systems and stuck in with bullying and judging and all of these things that happen to our youth now that maybe they did when we were younger, but there's electronics and there's all this other stuff that's out there. And a lot of times it just ticks me off what I see out there. And I have to make change. And that's what really prompted this tour.
So did I read the press release correctly? These are both fiction?
They're both
books?
fiction. All
right. So that's interesting, right? Because your early ones were this is reality, this is how to, etc. What made you go the fiction route with these two?
I couldn't figure out how to really start the Nonprofit Prophet. And so with Mark, he's got a team, and we actually sat down and they helped craft this idea in my head that the Nonprofit Prophet character is loosely based on me. And so the Nonprofit Prophet's name in the book is Thomas Matthews. My name's Matthew Thomas George. There's a lot of things, the car he drives, the shoes he wears, the hot green tea he drinks. There's so many different things in there that are me that an average person doesn't know about. But for me, it was about going in, making change for the better, and then at the end, really getting a community to gather around and be whole again.
people will write autobiographies. It's been going on since books have existed, right? But you're writing a fiction book, in essence, based on yourself. What was that experience like?
It's interesting because when I was, and a lot of this with Mark, I mean, his brain is just fun to talk to. When you write as many books as he has, you know, you just keep talking and talking and talking, and you start coming up with ideas. And we actually wrote this to if we want to continue it as a series. And then as we wrote Starfish, we can continue it as a series if we want. And haven't gotten there yet, but that was the intention of it.
So maybe we'll see the Starfish movie series come out, just like
that would be
Harry
awesome.
Potter at some point.
Would be awesome.
Would you be kind enough to hold up both book covers there so folks can see what they're looking for on Amazon? But there you have it, Starfish Among Us on the left, Nonprofit Profit on the right, going on sale today at Amazon.com. Now, folks in Lowell maybe get a chance to purchase some tomorrow, Saturday, October 14th. You're actually doing an event at a local downtown bookstore, Lowell Books.
I can't wait.
Which is right down the street from my family's business.
That's
so
awesome.
we're excited about that. But are you going to have copies for sale there?
Yes. Yeah, we'll have copies for sale, and anybody wants to come and talk, and I'm there as long as I need to be there to meet the great people of Lowell.
Yeah, I'm told by your cousins who organized this, they're already expecting about 50 plus people to come in there.
That's
so
great.
It's a small bookstore, so you're going to have a nice little crowd.
That's
but
fun.
The public is welcome to come in as well and check it out?
Yeah, it's they're open for business. And so, you know, I think if you're the owner of that bookstore, you want people to come in and you know, there's going to be some copies left behind too and so if you don't make it tomorrow, but yeah, it's going to be great.
Like I said, there's a lot of people in Lowell in the nonprofit world that I think would benefit tremendously from not just from watching this podcast, but for reading these books, all your books for that matter, because there is a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And my friend, you have certainly found the right way. You know, the proof is in the pudding.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, Matt George, best-selling author. I'm not even going to bother reading all the things you are. Just you know, great guest here on our podcast. Thank you so much, because your schedule is insane.
It's awesome. It's
and yet
fun.
you drove in from Boston at well, you were here at 9 in the morning. I can't imagine what time you left. But thank you very much, and thanks for coming back to your roots, never forgetting your roots. That tells me something.
It's very important to me. So, and you're a great interviewer. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And again, you can get to meet Matt in person Saturday, October 14th, 2 p.m. 1 p.m. at Lowell Books in downtown Lowell. Unfortunately, if you're watching this afterwards, you're going to be stuck with just listening to Matt's words on the podcast. But hey, he's hitting 52 cities in all. You can go catch a few more of them. And Tampa is beautiful. So is St. Pete, especially when he's down there in, I think, November, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So,
come on down.
Thank you for joining us for this podcast and all of our Inside Lowell podcasts. Inside Lowell, as we like to say, if Lowell is your home, this is your place. Till next time, be safe, everybody.